Hey guys, I'm here with the notes for 9.4, but this time I'm going to be doing them and teaching them with Desmos instead of the home calculator, basically. Okay, so first thing that you're going to want to do is open up desmos.com, the calculator, and you're going to want to get your pieces set up. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to need is we're going to need to type in our equation. So I'm going to type it in exactly like it is on the paper right here, except instead of an H, I'm going to put Y equals. And instead of a t, I'm going to put x. Okay, so our equation looks like y equals negative 5x squared, and then plus 20x plus 60. Now, you'll notice that I can't see most of it, and that's totally okay. But the next thing I want to do is make sure that I get my table. All right, I played around with this to figure out how to get it for you guys. Here's what you do. You're going to click on 2, just kind of make a new line. And up here where the plus sign is, you're going to click plus, make a table. Okay, now this is going to look very different than what we usually do because you have to create the table, at least through the x's and the equation. It will give you the y values automatically. Okay, so in the x1 column, you're going to type 0, enter 1, enter 2, enter all the way down to 10. If you need more time, obviously, you can pause it. Okay, that's your full table. We're never going to go past 10, at least on the notes. I think on the practice, there's one of them that goes to 15. Just type what you need. The second part you're going to do is go over here to this y1 equals, and instead of y1, I'm going to delete that out, and I'm going to type in our equation. I'm not going to use y equals. But every time I type an x, I have to make sure that it's an x1, just like this guy, okay? So watch what this looks like. Negative 5x, and I don't have to do like make it go down or anything. If I just type 1, it automatically goes down, okay? And then I'm going to keep typing. I make it squared, and then I go straight into plus 20x, but again, make it x1, and then plus 60. Once you have that whole equation typed in, it's going to give you automatically these points right here, okay? All right, so we have our table, we have our equation. Last thing we need to do is set up our screen, like our graph on the Desmos, to match the graph on your paper. Okay, so let me click back on my paper, and I'm going to scroll up just a little bit. Okay, use these numbers to fill out your settings. Okay, so look, if I look at my x-axis, that's this guy. My smallest number I need, don't write this on your paper, just look. And my biggest number I need. I am counting right here by ones, correct? Okay, if I change colors now and I show you it blue, look at my y-axis. These are my y's. Okay, my smallest, my biggest, and I am counting by tens, right? Okay, let me show you how to put that information into your Desmos because we won't be able to use this guy. Give me a second, there's a delay. There you go. You won't be able to use this guy anymore because that part's not on the calculator. Okay, so using what's on your screen, we're going to go over here to this little wrench right here. This is my settings on Desmos. The wrench up underneath the world above the plus minus, okay? When I click that, these are the 3 things you're going to want to fix, okay? First thing you're going to want to do is uncheck the minor grid lines because we don't need like half marks or quarter marks. All we need is the whole numbers, okay? Second thing, it asks me for my x-axis, okay? This first blank is where you put your smallest number, so mine was negative 3. The biggest number over here is a 9, so we're going to backspace it and put a 9. Step tells you what you want to count by. I want mine to step every 1, okay? That tells me where it puts the lines. Let's do the same thing for the y-axis. The y-axis, I want my smallest number, backspace, to be negative 10. I want my biggest number over here to be a 90. And I want it to step by 10s instead of by 20s like it was doing, okay? All right, when I'm done fixing everything here, click the wrench again to exit, okay? This is your graph. I want to make it very clear. You have to copy these dots, the purple dots, and you have to connect them. But when you connect them, you are only going to connect from the place on the y-axis up and down to the x-axis. So you are not going to use anything that was negative over here, and you won't use anything that's negative underneath here. So let's put that on our paper now. All right, I'm going to delete everything that was on here before, and I'm going to go ahead and graph those points. All right, so with purple, we had a dot on 60. We had a dot on, let me see what it was again, 75. We had a dot on 80. We had a dot on 75 again, 60 again, 35, and then down on the whole number 6. Okay, so if I'm looking at my paper right now, it looks like this. And when I connect it, I am only going to connect from the y-axis up and down. I will stop at the x-axis. Okay, all right. I will go back and explain what all the pieces mean in just a quick second. Okay, all right. The pieces that are going to be important for you to label are going to be these 3. Okay, I'm going to check back on here. You're always going to want to make sure you know this point, the one on the y-axis, so I'm going to label that 0, 60. You're going to want to make sure you know the highest point, so the maximum. I'm going to label that point 2 and 80. And then you're going to want to make sure you have this point, the point on the x-axis, so 6 and 0. So if you will label those on your paper right here. Pause it if you need to. I'm going to try and go quick and make this video as short as possible. Okay, those are the 3 things you need. So let's talk about what those represent. I'm actually going to go back 1 page on the notes, and I'm going to fill these in. We're going to label our axes. The bottom is always going to be time. That's my x-axis. My height is always going to be my y-axis. Now, make sure you use common sense. Time is usually going to be seconds or minutes or hours. Height is usually going to be feet or meters or miles or inches, something that's a length, okay? All right, so again, the y-intercept is going to show how high you were to start. The vertex, or in other words, the max, is going to show you how high you got. And what time you got there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and make a quick note. It is usually going to be time, comma, height, because your time is your x and your height is your y. Okay? All right, last thing you need to know is the 0 or the x-intercept is a time. It is when you hit the ground. Okay? Remember, you can always pause if you need more time. I'm writing in live time, so you should be able to copy with me. All right, so again, things you need to know. You need to know that we label this the height. You need to know that we label this the time. You need to know this is where you start. It is always going to be 0, comma something. You need to know this is where you land. It's always going to be something, comma 0. And you need to know that this is going to be your max. It is going to be time, comma height. Okay, those are the things I'm wanting you to know. Pause the screen if you need to, otherwise we're going to go back to problem 1. All right, so on problem 1, we're going to answer the questions based on the graph that we drew. I need to make it super, super clear to you. Number 1, there are no negative answers anywhere on here. Make that note, no negatives. Okay, second thing I want you to know is it is super important that you have units on everything. If you don't have units, you don't get the points. So need units. All right, let's go to town and answer these up. Okay, how high did the homework get? Okay, so if I look on my height, which is this axis, the highest place I ever got was 80. So if I read this question, Jamie put her homework in a slingshot and launched it 20 meters per second. Right there, I hear it. meters per second. So my units are going to be meters. I reached 80 meters. Okay. How long did it get that high? All right, well, now I need my time. So remember, my x-axis is time, and in this case, it's going to be seconds. Okay, so how long did it take to get 80? Well, that's this number right here, 2. So it took me 2 seconds to get 80 meters high. You can just put seconds, okay? When does the object strike the ground? Come down here. Gonna look, well, right here is where it kind of went boom. So what time did it land on 0? It's a whole number on this one, so it landed at 6 seconds. Why do we not include the other solution? Okay, so let's look at the Desmos real quick. We know that solutions are where you hit the x-axis, right? So we have this beautiful number 6 labeled, but we also know that ideally it would have crossed over here at -2, right? Okay, we don't have negative, because if I think about my time, can I ever have -2 seconds? No. Okay, so when you answer this question on the practice or on the quiz, it should sound something like time can't be negative. Okay, if you say you can't go back in time or you can't have a negative seconds, something like that would make sense. But I need to hear negatives and I need to hear time, okay? All right, domain and range. I'm going to give you the basic outline of how we do these, and then I'm going to answer the actual question, okay? Let me zoom in really quick. Okay, domain is always going to be my x's to the time when I land. My range is always going to be my y's from 0 up to my max height. You already have both those numbers, guys. They're in your answers, okay? So if I look back on these, I basically can go ahead and fill out the zeros, the less than or equal to's, the xy, less than or equal to's, okay? The only thing I have to borrow is my landing time and my maximum height. What time did we land? 6 seconds. You go ahead and draw an arrow. That should come from right here. Okay, what was my maximum height? That was 80. That should come from here. Okay, I'm going to zoom out so you can see anything else you need real quick on this. If you need to pause it, copy anything you're missing. Otherwise, we are going to problem 2. I'm going to go a little bit quicker through problem 2, okay? All right, let's go ahead and roll here. All right, we're starting at the beginning. So when you restart a problem, don't clear everything, okay? Just edit the things that you need. First thing I'm going to edit is my equation, okay? So if I notice my equation this time, I'm going to go, just use your mouse, go over, backspace the 5 and type -16. I can keep everything else. I'm going to go to the 20, delete it and put a 64. Go to the 60, delete it, and make an 80. This is my new equation for problem 1, okay? I'm going to do the exact same thing on the table, okay? So -5, delete it, make it -16. 64 instead of 20, and 80 instead of 60. See how the points line up? That means your graph is going correctly, okay? Last thing I need to edit is my space, what I can see on my graph screen. Okay, to do that, I'm going to have to look at my paper graph. My paper graph, remember, it goes from -1 to 7, and it goes from -10 up to 50 on the y-axis. So let's make that. Go to your wrench, your settings. I want my x's from -1 to 7, and they're still counting by ones, we're good. I'm going to have my y-axis go from -10 all the way up to 150, and it's counting by 10 still, okay? Click the wrench to exit when you're ready, and we're going to copy that onto our paper, okay? So I'm jumping back to my paper. Actually, I'm going to slide my internet over just a little bit so I can see my table. All right, purple dots. We got 0, 80. We got 1, 128. Again, I'm not judging that it's perfect, just a little bit under 130, okay? 2 goes to 144. We got 128 again. We've got 80 again. And we've got 0 down here for 5, okay? When you connect them, remember that we are not going into the negatives. You just connect from the y-axis to the x-axis. All right, 3 important points that we want to label is the y-axis. We're going to label our maximum, our vertex. And we're going to label our x-axis down here. If you need to move it over, you can. It's 5, 0. I'm going to label my axis, height, and time. Okay. Put this back over top of here so you can see it. Those are all the pieces that I need on the graph. Let's make sure we know what our units are so we can answer our questions, okay? All right, I'm scrolling up. Selena got mad and threw Justin upward at 64 feet per second. Okay, so feet is my height, seconds are my time. I'm going to label that feet so I remember, seconds so I remember. All right, so first question says, what is the maximum height? All right, that's over here. What's the highest height I got to? 144 feet. How long did it take him to hit the ground? Okay, that's not the 2. When did it hit the ground? That's the 5. So 5 seconds. If the cameraman snapped a picture at the top of the throw, what time was that? All right, so what time, what X number did I reach 144 at? Well, that's the 2, right? At 2 seconds, I was 144 feet. So I would take the picture at 2 seconds. If there had been another 80-foot tall stage closer to Selena, what time would Justin have landed on that? All right, so here's how I think about that. I think about if here is 80 feet, right? Say that's the stage. If she threw him up, but he stayed on the stage, what time would he have landed on that? Well, it's not the 5. It's actually this 4. Okay, so instead of 5 seconds to land on the ground, it would have only taken 4 seconds to land on the stage. So let's go ahead and put that. So 4 seconds. Whoops, give me a second. We're a little bit frozen. There we go, 4 seconds. All right, remember that domain is your X, range is your Y. You can go ahead and put in all the less than or equal to's, and you're always going to start with 0. My domain is always going to be 0 to when I land. So when did we land? That was the 5 seconds. The range is always going to be 0 up to your maximum height. So what is my maximum height? 144. All right, I'm going to zoom out. If you need anything to copy on this problem, go ahead and do that now. Otherwise, we're moving to problem 3. Great. All right, problem 3. Again, if we start from the beginning, we're going to edit. We are not going to delete. Okay, first thing I'm going to do, let me move this over. I'm going to edit my equation. All right. With the x squared, I need a -5 instead of -16. With the x, I need a 40. And I'm just going to delete off the 80. I don't even need the 80 at all. Okay. I'm going to make my table match that. So I'm going to go take out the 16 to make it a 5. Change the 64 to a 40, and then over here, I'm going to get rid of the 80. Okay, so my equation should match, my dots and my graph should line up. Okay, all right, last thing I need to edit is I need to change my settings on my graph to match what's on my paper. Okay, so let's look at the paper. The paper goes from -1 to 9, counting by 1s, and it goes from -10 to 80, counting by 10s. Okay, let me slide this over. Let's make it match. Settings, -1 to 9, I need a little bit more there. -10 to 80 this time, so I can delete that out and put my 80. Okay. All right, let's go ahead, take a second and copy our graph. I'm going to be using the table so I know where to put my points. All right, again, we start at 0, 0. 1 goes to 35, 2 goes to 60, 3 goes to 75, 4 is 80, and then we go back down with the same numbers. So 75, 60, 35, and 0. I connect everything from the y-axis up and down to the x-axis. I never go to the negatives. Okay? All right, take a second, pause it if you need to, and then we can label. All right, for my labels, I need this point, 0, 0. I need the maximum, which is up here, 480. And then I need my X-intercept that we have at 8, 0. Okay. All right, right now I'm still on the paper. I'm labeling my height. And I'm labeling my time. And I'm going to read the question so I know what my units are. Okay. Question says, the Kardashian family stood out on their patio and threw their money up from the ground level at 40. That m/s means meters per second. The equation for the path for the money was this. Okay, so I'm looking at meters for height and seconds for time. Now that we've got all our information, let's go ahead and answer our questions. What is the max, since Kanye is broke, he was standing out on the 75-meter balcony above trying to catch some money. How long should he wait to reach out and grab it? All right, so if you're at 75, let me draw a little person right here. If you're at the 75-meter mark, what times can he reach out and grab it? So we need this point and we need this point. Okay, let me scroll up real quick. What times is the money going to be at 75? Well, we have two options. He could either wait for 3 seconds or at 5 seconds. Okay, go ahead and answer that question. So we can either go 3 seconds or 5 seconds. The next question, I know there's a typo, but it should say, how long will it take for the rest of the money to come back down to the ground? All right, so what time did it get back here to the ground? Should be 8, so 8 seconds. What is the maximum height for the money that Kanye couldn't grab? Well, my maximum height is this guy, so 80, and my units are meters, so 80 meters. And for the last ones, domain and range, we know the drill. Set up your X and Y. Set up your less than or equal to's. Fill in the first number is always 0. All right, so for the time, we go to domain, when it landed. And for the range, we go from 0 to the max height. Okay. All right, I'm going to zoom out, take a second, make sure you have number 3, and then we're going to the next problem. All right, number 4. Number 4 says, Miss Black finally lost it when one more kid didn't turn in their homework. She took the kid's backpack, threw it out the window at 10 feet per second. So there's my units, feet per second. Since she's on the 3rd floor, she was 50 feet above the ground. Since she's mean, she made the students find the equation. Haha. Let's go ahead and look at these. We're going to edit our equations. All right. So if I look at this, my equation is still -5, but I want it to be plus 10x and then plus 50. Okay. All right. We're going to make our table say the same thing. So I have -5x squared. I want plus 10x. Move over. And then plus 50 on the end. Okay. I'm going to look at my paper graph and I'm going to see what space I want to see in my screen. I want to go from -1 to 6, counting by ones. I want to go from -10 to 60, counting by tens. All right, so let's look at our wrench. We're going to make x go from -1. I only need to go to 6. And for the range, I want -10 to 60 instead of 80. Okay? All right. Blah! Crap. All right, give me a second. I got to fix mine. Okay, so -1 to 6. -10 to 60. All right, there we go. Wrench. All right, we're going to go ahead and graph those points. So let me look back here. All right, with my purple dots, we are going to graph. 0 starts at 50. 1 goes to 55. 2 goes to 50. 3 goes to 35, 4 goes to 10, and 5 goes to negative 25. All right, so this one's a little bit weird. I don't really have the X-Intercept, okay? All right, so all I can do is kind of connect the dots for what I have, but I'm gonna wanna make sure I have all my labels. Okay, so here's what you do. I'm gonna click and make sure I know them. All right, I got 0, 50. I already knew that one. All right, I got my maximum, 1 and 55. But down here, I don't know where it landed. All I have to do is click and it's gonna tell me though. All right, if I click on this, there is my time. So I'm gonna write that on my paper. And that way I know where to connect it. Okay, so again, I'm gonna go from the y-axis up and down, and I need to hit it like 4.3, so somewhere right there. I've got all my pieces labeled, but I still need my height was feet, and my time was in seconds. So take just a second and label that. Okay, all right, and then we are ready to answer our questions. All right, Barry Allen, aka The Flash, was one of Miss Black's students and ran down the stairs to try and catch the backpack. He made it in 5 seconds. Did he make it in time to catch the backpack? Why or why not? All right, so if I kind of scroll back down, if my flash shows up right here at 5 seconds, did he make it in time to get the backpack? No, he didn't make it there in time because it already landed at 4 seconds, 4.3 seconds. No. Already landed at 4.317 seconds. Okay, if you just put 4.3, I'm fine with that, but don't put 4, okay? All right, if there was a bird flying 60 feet above the ground outside Miss Black's window, would she have hit it? Why or why not? All right, so let's go up here. I'm gonna move this down. All right, so let's say there was a bird at 60 feet off the ground. Would I have hit the bird, or would Miss Black have hit the bird? No. Hopefully you see that it only went 55. So no, only went 55 feet. Okay, it never went up to 60. It wouldn't have hit the bird. So we're going to use those numbers to do domain and range again. All right, I got my X and my Y. Got my less than or equal choose. And I always start with 0. My X goes from 0 to when it landed. So that's the 4.317. My range goes to the max height, 0 to 55. All right, I'm going to zoom out so you can see if there's anything you missed. All right, that is the end of the question 4. I'm sorry, we got one more. Sorry about that, guys. All right, last one. Let's go ahead and look at number 5. All right, number 5, same thing again. We are going to edit the equation, edit the table, and then edit the graph. All right, so my equation, is going to be negative 16x squared plus 24 plus 40. Going to edit that in the table, so negative 16x squared plus 24x plus 40. Okay. I'm going to move over my screen, and I'm going to set up my graph on the calculator to match what's on my paper. All right, you'll notice this time on the paper, it's counting by decimals. So 0.51, 1.52, 2.5. It's counting by halves, right? All right, you'll also notice this time on the y-axis, it's counting by 5s. So let's be really careful. We choose the right things. I'm going to my settings. I'm going to go from -1 to 4.5, and I'm counting not by 1s, but by 0.5s. Okay. From my y-axis, I'm going from -5 this time up to 50, but I'm counting by 5s instead of 10s, okay? All right, click the wrench when you're all set. I'm going to move this over so we can graph our points. Ooh, okay. Look on your table real quick. You see how our table is only counting by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? We're going to need to edit these and make them count by decimals. So we want to type what's on the paper. So 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, and 4.5. Sorry about that. I didn't see that we hadn't edited him yet. Okay, let's take a second and graph those points. Again, if you need to pause it at any time, please do that. Our 0 started on 40. 0.5 went to 48, so that's up here. 1 goes to 48 again. Then we go back down to 40. 24 is just kind of under 25, and then 2.5 is at 0. Okay. All right, I'm going to look on my calculator to make sure I know all my points. Okay, so if I look right here, I know my y-intercept. My y-intercept is 0.40. But I don't know where my maximum is because it's not these dots. I don't need these guys. Okay, let me get rid of that one. I actually need the one that's perfectly the highest right here in the middle. So if I just click right there, it's going to tell me what that maximum point is. And that way I can write it on my paper. All right, so my point is 0.75, 49. Okay, and the last point I need is down here at 2.5, 0. All right, I'm going to show you my paper so you can see those. And we're going to connect from the y-axis to the x-axis. And we're going to label our height and our time and check our units. Our units are, at the Olympics, Michael Phelps dives from a diving board that is 40 feet high. So we are at feet. His position above the water is represented by this equation where t is time in seconds. All right, so we got feet and we got seconds. All right, at this point, you should have all the information. We're ready to answer the question, okay? All right, first question. What is Michael's maximum height? That's this 49 right here. Okay, so 49 feet. How long after the jump did he reach that height? So the how long part, that's the x number that's with the max. So 0.75 seconds. At what time did he hit the water? Well, he hit the water down here at my x-intercept number. That's the 2.5. So 2.5 seconds. And then same thing goes for domain and range again. We got x and y. We got our less than or equal to's. We always start at 0. And my x is the landing. My range, or my y, is my maximum height, 49. Okay, I'm going to zoom out. If you missed anything, take a second and copy it. And now I think we're done with our notes. Yes, sir? All right, your practice is the 9.4. Please use Desmos to do this. You should have accurate points. You should have everything labeled. The questions are very easy as long as you're looking for them. Okay, the only two things I want to make sure you remember is even if you don't know this point right here, okay, all you have to do is click it and it will tell you what it is, the x-intercept, okay? If you look up here and you can't tell what the maximum is, all you have to do is click it and it will tell you what that point is, okay? So don't use this as a maximum if he's not actually on the top, okay? If you see a gray dot, then that means the gray dot is the maximum, okay? All right, if you have any questions, remember you can log on to WebEx and let me know. Have a good day.